It's definitely taken on a life of its own. In fact, I like to think of Twitter as this sort of emergent being that has, taken what it's needed when it's needed it, and who it's needed, and a lot of even the features of Twitter, like the hashtag and the @reply and the retweet. These are all features that we created something simple, and then we just stood back and we looked for patterns, and we looked for what people were trying to do with the system, and we made them into features. So when they were putting a hashtag, that meant that they wanted to add a topic or a tag to their tweet, and so we hyperlinked that and showed all the other tweets with hashtags, and @replies were a rudimentary means of having a conversation, so we threaded those. And retweets, we just made a button, so it sort of spoke to us. It told us what it wanted to be.
What was the moment when you thought, right, hold on a sec, this has gone a bit crazy now?
Well, the big moment was in March of 2007, when we were at a technology conference, and it was the very first time we saw Twitter out in the wild, so to speak. Before that, we were just in a bubble creating this thing that we thought was fun, and there was a man at a pub at this technology conference, and he thought the pub was too loud to talk to his friends, and so we sent out a tweet recommending another pub, and he sent that to his followers, and they thought it was a good idea, and so they sent it out, and so forth. And in the 8 minutes it took him to walk to that pub, it had completely filled to capacity, and there was a line around the block. So his plan backfired, but the thing that struck me about it was that the image of a flock of birds moving around an object in flight came to mind. This is something that looks incredibly choreographed and practiced. But in fact, the mechanics of flocking are very simple. It's just, one bird watching the shoulder of its neighbor and reacting accordingly in a group. And it allows many individuals to suddenly become one organism for a little bit, and then back to many individuals. And we saw this with people. And it struck me because I thought to myself, this is the only technology in the world that allow people to behave as one for a moment. And this was a party situation, but what if it had been something serious? That was what I thought. And that really sent shivers down my spine, and it was about 3 days later that we actually formed Twitter Incorporated, because before that it was just a project. But that moment was a watershed moment for us. We realized there was something important about Twitter.
It is incredible, isn't it? And despite the fact that you've probably made enough money to be able to retire now, it's not the end for you. You've got this book out at the moment talking about Twitter, and also another project as well. Yes,
Things a Little Bird Told Me is basically a lecture that I've been giving at Oxford for the last 11 years turned into a book. So it's the story of Twitter, but it's a lot of other stories too, a lot of lessons learned throughout my life that I
mistakes made, positive things.
Plenty of mistakes, for sure, and I share them unabashedly. I'm working on a new project now called Jelly, which is kind of a reimagining of search. Everyone thinks we've got that sorted out, but most of the planet's opinions and knowledge and recommendations are in people's heads. They're not on the internet. So there's still a lot to be done there.
Sounds fascinating. Biz, thank you so much. We could talk all morning. Unfortunately, we can't, because they've just sent us a tweet saying we've got to go. Thank you so much. Best of luck with the book, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great to meet you.